That's not what we're here to talk about. Mr. Nick, I believe there is some news.
So, here's the news.
So,
on Wednesday, July 16th.
what about I need my news drop.
Oh, dude, I forgot that we did that because
Come
we
on.
haven't done.
We haven't done the news in 5
Wiki
ever.
what? News time.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
what I thought.
Thank you
That's
for
what I
reminding
thought.
me. So, 5:39 a.m., July 16th, the official Nintendo Twitter account, randomly, day before Donkey Kong comes out. This is Miyamoto. I'm pleased to announce for the live-action Zelda film that Zelda will be played by Bo Bragason and Link by Benjamin Evan Ainsworth. I really hope I didn't butcher either of those names. I'm very much looking forward to seeing both of them on the big screen, and then continued to say the film is scheduled to be released in theaters on May 7th, 2027. So we are still roughly 2 years away, which is good. That means they still have time to actually make it good, and they're not rushed by deadlines or anything, which is something Nintendo does incredibly well, even in their games. Their developers have talked about how when they're making a game, sometimes they do have deadlines, but they're not opposed to moving the deadlines to make a good product. And then sometimes, the Mario Wonder team had no deadlines. They said, just make a good game and let us know when it's done, and we'll put it out. So, the casting...
Can I ask, have you heard of either of these actors?
No. I had to look up both of them. I had no clue who they were. I think Bo Bragason's biggest claim to fame was a Disney Plus show that got canceled. And then...
So, you know what's crazy is, according to IMDb, she is credited as a 3D scan model in Kingsglaive Final Fantasy.
Yes, I did hear about that this week.
So she was young Luna, which I didn't realize that was a thing. So good work,
and then
guys.
Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, not really anything too crazy. He voiced Pinocchio in the live action remake of that.
Okay.
And then there's some other stuff, but really relatively unknown actors. And I think that is the most ideal situation for this movie.
I agree.
And if anybody wants to go back, we fan casted the Zelda movie. Neither of these picks were on there, which I think we picked some relatively niche people, because even we didn't go with Tom Holland and Zendaya. We kind of tried to keep it a little more niche, but these are even more niche than that. But we talked about in that episode.
I forgot that we did that.
Yeah. Right when it got announced, we did a whole episode. It was 2 hours long.
Yeah.
But that was something we talked about, was the ideal path for this movie was to use relatively unknown actors. One, because then you're not having to say, well, now I have to see Tom Holland as Link.
Right.
When it's, no, I see this person as Link. And that's just their iteration of that character.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not having to overcome the celebrity hurdle. But also, it gives these two actors a chance to be in a really big movie.
Mm-hmm.
The Zelda franchise is massive. Zelda is one of the most iconic female characters of all time. And the Zelda franchise is one of the most iconic of all time. So it now gives these two actors a chance to be brought more into the limelight. This could be career making for them. And I think,
which I also think, no, continue.
It's interesting that they didn't give us Ganondorf at all. And I think you could, if your two main characters are unknown, you could go with a Dave Bautista or Idris Elba. You could go for a bigger name with Ganondorf, so you still have that pull. But then your two main characters, who are also super young, I think both of them are younger than we are.
Right.
Which is insane.
Kind of a little scary. Because we're quite young for the podcast game.
Right.
Most podcasts that we have found in our niche are 28 plus, where it's
yeah, we're early 20s, baby.
We're early, so, suck it, boomer. But
so yeah, give me some thoughts. How do you feel?
I think there's an interesting point to be made here about how we're really bad at casting new actors in movies. You think about how the Minecraft movie's main problem that everyone said was they were like, well, this is just Jack Black. Like, we don't see Steve in this character. We just see Jack Black being Jack Black. So I think your point is very valid to be like, no, like, especially because Link as a character is kind of a blank slate. And so when we take, how do you do a film adaptation of like a blank slate character? Because which games, is this a Breath of the Wild, air quote, like movie, or
so we don't know.
Because
it could be a direct adaptation of a game, which would also be interesting because
the Zelda timeline is messy.
But also Benjamin has brown hair. There is no iteration of Link except the really bad animated TV show that has brown hair. So they could be doing something completely different unless they made him dye his hair. And even the pictures that they posted, I can't tell if these are like stills from the movie that they've taken really out of context, or if they just took these two actors out to like a forest and said, let's do a promo photo shoot real quick. Like,
which is possible.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm very pro casting unknown actors because, like you said, like, it gives them a great shot, like it gives them a chance. It's also, think about what does the future of Hollywood look like if we are only casting the same pool of 50 people forever, and then they're gonna retire and some of them are gonna eventually pass away, and we're kind of like, oh no, there's no new modern movie star.
Right.
And so it's like, I would say the closest thing we've had to a new movie star is probably Timothée Chalamet, where it's like he kind of like grew up in these roles and like got more of them as he got older, and now he's kind of like the movie star for this era is Timothée Chalamet. So I think that casting these people is honestly huge because it's huge for their career. It's huge for the future of Hollywood as we're continuing to grow outside of this bubble of like the same 50 Hollywood actors. And I'm very pro that because there's so much more talent out there that we're just not pulling from. And Bo Burnham talks about this a lot too, and how he's like, I don't want to see Brad Pitt in your movie because that's Brad Pitt. I just know Brad Pitt as Brad Pitt, and I can't detach Brad Pitt from himself because he's so like huge. And so I think that is kind of another huge pull of indie cinema, is how we want to discover these new people. We want to see them as characters, and it's like really interesting to see such a big company do that. So I'm very, very excited for this cast, and I think that Nintendo is one of those companies that holds their property like so tight to their chest that I guarantee you that they are definitely, like, without a doubt, the best choice for the role, simply because Nintendo does not play when it comes to things like that. Now, did they give Chris Pratt Mario? Yes, but this was a much different context, because when they gave Illumination that movie, they knew the context they were getting into.
Here's the thing, though. This casting has made a lot of people, I've seen a handful of people that, like, they didn't cast Tom Holland or like some popular woman, which I'll come back to that. I have a whole tangent about that in a second. There are people who are saying, oh, I might actually go see this now, because I think there was a fear that because the Mario movie had Seth Rogen, Charlie Day, Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Pratt, Jack Black, like all these big names to get butts in seats, like, did they do a good job? Yeah, sure. But also I think that kind of set the expectation that for all of these movies, they're gonna do that. And then when they didn't, people thought, okay, well, hold on. They're actually like taking this seriously and like making a good Zelda movie. But then also it made a lot of people retroactively go back and say, oh, Miyamoto actually thought Chris Pratt was the best choice for Mario. And he wasn't entirely wrong, because there's also a difference in like an animated movie and a live action movie. An animated movie, you don't have to look at Chris Pratt. You hear his voice, but it's a little easier to suspend that disbelief because you're not looking at him. Whereas in a live action movie, you're looking at them. Like, you're looking at real people. And that's something that I think anime dubs run into a lot, is anime dubs also cast the same like 10 people for everything, and it's very hard to get new people in there. And that says a lot more about the cliquish nature of anime dubbing. It's whatever. I watched a whole video about it this week. But I am glad that they cast seemingly unknown people. because I'm also interested to see what they can do. Because if you're not a huge actor, maybe I'm wrong, but there's not as much pressure on you to like live up to an expectation. You know what I mean? Like everyone has expectations of Tom Holland and Brad Pitt. Like you have an expectation there, but I don't think there's as much.
I think I honestly disagree. I think that is like double the expectation, because if I go to see the Zelda movie with Tom Holland, I'm like, well, it wasn't great, but it was Tom Holland. Like, or if when I see the Mario movie, I'm like, well, it wasn't like 10 out of 10, but it was Chris Pratt. Like, it was just Chris Pratt. Where like, I think when you don't have a name to back up your work, it's kind of like, you're just kind of throwing yourself out there. And especially if you debut, like your like big breakout role is the Zelda movie, and if you screw up Link, then like where do you get cast next?
I guess that's true. I didn't think about that.
I would argue that it's probably even a much bigger expectation on these people, which like, guys, for the love of God, please be nice. Please be nice to them.
These actors.
Like, if you bully these kids off the internet because his hair isn't blonde and he didn't do this mannerism from this pirated DS game that never saw the light of day and 1 star, because then you don't deserve to see this movie, because they're very clearly trying to make a good movie for Zelda fans. And if you can't like get some kind of appreciative value out of that, then like what will satisfy you?
Well, that, it's funny you say that. Great segue. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who were not cool with this casting. And not for the reason you'd think. So I won't belabor this point too much, because I want to talk about DK and like things that are positive, because this is an overwhelmingly negative thing, but it also just makes me really upset. So we get this casting announcement, and there's a lot of people who are celebrating that, relatively unknown people, like that's going to be great for their career, like all this stuff, but specifically focusing in on, how do I say her name? I don't want to butcher it. Bo Bragason. Specifically focusing in on her and the fact that they cast her as Zelda. Now, like I said, Zelda, one of the most iconic franchises of all time, and Zelda as a character, like Princess Zelda, one of the most iconic, popular women of pop culture, right? Like in terms of fictional characters. So having this role, it's like very important, because this is a role model that, young girls look up to and like guys have a crush on, like, let's be real. So like, it is really important who you cast in that role. And there was a lot of people who, for some reason or another, thought that Hunter Schafer was the right choice for that role. I'm not here to get into the politics of it all. I don't really care. But there were a lot of people who were really mean and nasty on the internet and said stuff like Hunter Schafer should be allowed to kill Miyamoto for not being cast in the movie. And like, just going on this whole tirade about how Hunter Schafer was the best choice, like doing that one side-by-side picture that I'm sure everyone has seen of, well, here's Hunter Schafer and here's Twilight Princess Zelda, and like, oh my gosh, they look exactly alike. But like, there's so much more to casting a character than just, do they look exactly like the character? Because maybe they're not even doing a Twilight Princess movie. Like, yeah, sure, he looks like, Twilight Princess Zelda, but also that's not what they're doing with this movie. Like, they clearly wanted to go with someone younger, more feminine. Like, that's what they wanted to do. So the fact that everyone got upset and almost like took this fan casting as gospel, because there was a PR firm that put out a rumor, in air quotes, that Hunter Schafer was being considered for the role by Sony and Nintendo. A lot of people freaked out, thought, oh no, it's so over, the movie's like gonna suck. And then there were other insiders who came out and said, the movie's already been cast, Hunter Schafer was not chosen, the movie's been cast for like 6 months, so this is not like, this is all hearsay. So then like 2 days after that report comes out, it was debunked that the PR firm that put it out was not even connected to Hunter Schafer. They were just
Right.
like throwing darts at the wall and everybody ran with it. And then that group of people took that as gospel, and then this casting came out and now they're like crashing out
Right.
because it's not. And they've already moved
Which
on.
is
They're like,
just-
Hunter Schafer is going to be in the live action Metroid movie. And I'm like, guys, you got to stop. Listen.
You gotta stop. It's just blatant misinformation.
Listen, blatant
Like-
misinformation, but also, let's be real. Maybe controversial take here that gets me canceled. I just want everyone to know, Japan does not view these kind of things the same way that the West does. So why are we shocked that a Japanese company making a movie is going to act in the way that a Japanese company would? Like, that's all I'm saying.
Right.
I'm
That's all
not,
we're gonna say.
like- We could go in and out on all that.
Right.
I'm just saying, do not bully these kids because,
Right.
especially Bo Bragason, because this, like, I'm sure they were told in advance that this tweet was going out, and like, it's supposed to be all exciting and like, oh my gosh, I get to play Zelda, like, only to
Right.
be met by like, all these people are like, you should die and you suck and you're
Right.
not, you're not Hunter Schafer, so you shouldn't be Zelda.
Right.
Like, stop it. Leave her alone. Like, we really need to stop doing that. And that's all I have
Yeah.
to say about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot more nuance you could get into, but I don't care.